Hello and welcome to Photoshop for Photographers with me, Sam, at exploretravelphoto.com. Today we're going to be looking at how to convert your images into black and white using Photoshop, as well as using Camera Raw. I'm going to be telling you what methods are best for converting your images to black and white, as well as sharing some sort of less well-known tips as to how to really get your black and white photography to stand out. So first thing you're going to want to do for this first method is to open a RAW file, and then you'll get the Camera Raw window pop up, which is this. If you'd like, you can make basic adjustments on the first sort of screen, which is what I've done to this image. You're then going to want to click the fourth icon in, which is HSL grayscale, and you'll get this sort of drop down pop up. Now here we have hue, saturation and luminance. You don't really want to worry about that at all for now. You're just going to want to tick this box that says convert to grayscale, and that will automatically convert your image to black and white. But what I always like to do is to play with these sliders just to see what colour controls what sort of tone in the image. For example, this orange here controls the sort of building and the path. Now it was down here, but I prefer it to sort of be up here, as it sort of gives a really nice contrast. It's more sort of stark black and white photography, which I really like. So yeah, that's what I always do. I always just have a little play with the sliders, just to see what controls what, and to really get the sort of best that I can, best contrast, just to really get a nice black and white image. So that's the first method. That's a method I really highly recommend. It's the one I generally use when I'm converting my images to black and white within Photoshop. I'm going to show you the next method now. I'm happy with this image to show you, as it's got quite a few different tones. So I'll just open that. Okay, this next method is a very simple method. I do not recommend it at all. It's the first method I learned of how to convert images to black and white within Photoshop, and it's literally just pressing Ctrl-U on your keyboard or Command-U on a Mac to bring up the screen, the hue and saturation, and then just grabbing the saturation on the master here, grabbing the saturation and just dragging it to 0. The reason I don't recommend this is because you have no control over any part of the image at all. You have no control over what tones go what colours. You literally are just sucking the saturation out of the image in one simple way, and it's just really basic, and you can get far better results with methods that really aren't that much more complicated at all. So this next way is also another way I highly recommend, as it's very useful. Right, and that was in image, and that was in adjustments within image adjustments, and then black and white. A very useful thing about this is, which is not on the Camera Raw sort of black and white converter, is this swatch here. You see my mouse has sort of turned into this sort of eyedropper sort of tool. If I click anywhere in the image and drag to the left or drag to the right, it will show me what colour I'm currently hovering over, which is yellow. There's a lot of yellow in this image, so that basically is controlling the entire image. But if I go up here, for example, that's green for some reason. You think it would be blue, but this is, see, it's getting the greens up and down. That's just a really sort of simple way, instead of sort of doing this, and it's a nice way to sort of target a certain area. Like I said, there's a lot of yellow in this image, so it's less effective within this image. But if there was one part that you knew was red and you clicked on it and then dragged it left or right, the red would be moving left or right, and you'd just be focusing on that one area, which is very sort of important. You also have the option to tint down here, which can be effective, but I'm going to show you a much better way now to really get your sort of black and white photography. If you want to add tint or sort of a colour tone, there's a much better way of doing it, because this way only allows you to add one colour, which isn't really effective. So I'm just going to cancel that. It's going to copy the layer, it's just because it's safer and easier, and that's what I always do. you're going to want to go to adjustments, have the adjustments panel open, and you're going to want to click black and white. Now this is essentially exactly the same way as the image adjustments that I've just shown you. You can do the same thing if you click this sort of hand up here, hand icon. You can do the same effect where you drag it left and right, which is very useful. So just say I'm happy with that. Obviously it would take me much longer to be happy with the sort of black and white composition and sort of tone, but for now that's fine. So now I've got my black and white image. I'm going to go into colour balance. I'm going to select the shadows. I'm just going to make a really slight adjustment to the coloration. So that's my shadows. You can now click midtones. Make a slight adjustment to the midtones. If you are going to be doing this and sort of adding a very sort of slight colour to your black and white, I wouldn't recommend doing it too much, as it can make it look very odd. I've now selected my highlights. The red sky looks interesting. Almost looks a bit infrared. Can have a yellow sky. Oh, that's quite effective. So that's a way that you can add colour to your black and white images. I know the whole point of sort of black and white is that it is black and white, but some people like to add a very sort of slight hint of colour, and this is a very good way to do that. I'm now going to be showing you a way to emphasise the black and white within your images. So first thing I want to do is actually convert it to black and white again. I'll just do it fast. Actually, I'm happy with that for now. Oh, I'm happy with that for now, as it will be quite easy to show you. So first thing you're going to want to do is add an anti-layer. This is this icon here, just left of the sort of trash or garbage icon. You click that. You're then going to go to Edit and Fill, or Shift F5. And you're going to want to choose 50% grey and select OK. Now don't panic, it will give you a very grey screen. You then want to change the blending option to overlay, which is right here. Now sort of first sight, that doesn't do anything at all, but what we're going to be doing is painting highlights and shadows onto our image. So next thing you're going to want to do is to select the brush tool. And you are going to want to, it depends what you'd like to paint first. First thing we're going to do to this image, I'm going to paint highlights along this path and this building. You really are not going to want a higher opacity here. You're going to really want to bring it down. So 6, I'm going to try. And just slowly start painting along the path, just to make it lighter. I learnt this from Noor El Gamari, who was my tutor for GCSE and A-level photography. It's very, very effective at really making black and white photographs stand out, and it's something not many people know. And I've read through magazines looking for this same sort of technique, and it does exist, but it's not as well known as you thought it would be for something that's so effective. So that's the highlights, just to show you really quick. See, it subtly lightens the path, and once that's on, it looks perfectly normal. It looks like it belongs in the image, and you'd never know that was done. Well, the untrained eye would never know that's done. I can't even tell that that's done, that that's been done when I'm looking at black and white photography. So next thing we're going to want to do is just paint some shadows, just to give the same sort of effect. just gently paint some along here. I've given a larger brush just to sort of show you, but I wouldn't recommend doing it with a large brush. You want control, so you want a smaller brush really. So just paint a few more shadows. It's a very useful technique, and it's essentially sort of painting highlights and shadows, which really lends to what photography is, because the Latin for photography basically means light painting. So we'll go Control 0, and there you can see the blatant sort of stark difference. It's off, that's on. And this is a brilliant way to bring out your black and white photography. You can also use this on colour photography, but I find it works a lot better on black and white, because you basically just got highlights and shadows shown off so much better, because you've got black and white, and then the grey is a mix of both. So it's a really good way of just bringing out your black and white photography, and it's a very good tip. So that has been today, a sort of insight into black and white photography and how you can really sort of make your black and white photography stand out amongst the others with this simple but very, very effective technique. I've been Sam with exploretravelphoto.com. Please check out my website if you're viewing this on YouTube. It's got loads of other tutorials on there, as well as blog posts about my photography, and it's got my photography on there.